I don't really think Bitcoin will drop below the $1 trillion mark in the future, not for sustained periods of time. It may dip very, very quickly, but I think that we're now, going to move up, and that's significant for Bitcoin because, all macro asset buckets that people store value in, whether it's real estate, equities, bonds, whatever, it's, units of trillions of dollars. Bitcoin's kind of like this little baby that's just broken into that club. And also given the adoption of, which is going exponential, time's running out for it to drop below this zone as more and more people enter.
So what else are you seeing on chain? I mean, I'm reading a lot about how the Bitcoins are not really moving hands, right? So people are holding.
Yeah, there's a lot of more and more of the supply that has been moved to what we call illiquid holders, that are these people that have a history of accumulating coins with very little selling. That trend's continued. Notably, a lot of coins are moved off the exchanges. People are buying the coins, scooping them up. The inventory on exchanges where they usually traded or sold is depleting. So that's another good sign. We've had that. It's unprecedented, really. It's been running like that for the good, it fluctuates, but for the most part, it's been depleting for a year, and that's a new pattern. So if you were to look at Bitcoin over the last 12 years, it started off with more and more coins flowing into the exchanges from those early guys that, mined it from as early as 2009, 2010 onwards, and they were selling in. And so the supply started to fill the exchanges. It was traded around the COVID crash. There was a sea change of activity, and that behavior started reversing. And so a lot of the coins started moving away from the exchanges and being locked up into cold storage under people that are hodling. So that's been going for a very, very long time. And if you look at the long arc of 12 and a half years, this last year's had this complete behavioral change. So that's a very bullish sign. It's not all, we've also seen that there's what Glassnode, the on-chain data provider at Glassnode, they have a metric called long-term holders, which is essentially coins that are being locked up in wallets for 5 months or more. Being in a wallet and they've aged for 5 months, there's very little chance that they'll be sold. The probability starts to drop off a cliff that they'll sell. If you were to look at that cohort, that's been ramping up and up and up, and now we're at peak levels. Those guys are now starting to sell into this kind of rally we've had from 30,000 to the mid 60,000. There are people selling into it and people taking profit, but that's actually what you want to see, because in every really strong rally, you see these guys start to drop, sell into it, that have been around for 5 months. They probably bought in the first quarter of this year and made substantial profit. It's a real good indicator because you can kind of measure how much of those coins are out there. And as they start to deplete down, those 5 months coins, as they sell, obviously now they'll start from zero, day one, day two. That side of things, as it starts to bottom out, then we're reaching the top of a bull market. Good news is that they've only just started selling, so it usually takes many, many, many months for that trend to sort of reach its end. So that's telling us that we've got probably 3, 6, who knows, even 9 months of a rally ahead, but yet to see how that progresses because it changes every week. So yeah, everything's relatively bullish on the longer, sort of the weeks to months out from here. Anything can happen within the day or hour, but months out, it's pretty bullish.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information, and it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Well, that's really interesting to hear. So why do you think it hasn't broken that 70 mark? Because obviously the all-time highs are exciting, but I mean, they're not too far from, the 60s we had earlier this year before the big correction. So why can't we break 70?
The market's been a little bit overheated. We had the ETF that was announced, so there was a lot of speculative buying that came in, and a lot of the people that have bought are more speculative in nature. If you were to look at where we sit in terms of what I call supply shock, which is the ratio of those guys that are really strong holders to the rest, I would say the ratio of coins held by these really strong holders versus more speculative hands, we're not at the ratios that we saw in the first and second quarter before May. We're actually actually climbing up there, but not at the same levels where we last touched the $64,000 range. Structurally, you could say we're not as bullish on chain, at least, but we've also had a lot of changes with the ETFs being approved. So those ETFs are futures based. They're not actually buying Bitcoin. They're actually buying futures contracts to get exposure to the price. That's like a new kind of thing that we have to account for, and for all things being equal, the price should be much higher for the given amount of on-chain hodling, because now we've got these hodlers that are hodling actually derivative contracts rather than Bitcoin themselves. I think you take the two in concert. The hodling on-chain is not as strong as, say, April, but then we've got this new kind of kid in town, which is hodling the derivative contracts. But overall, there's a lot of speculative FOMO. The fundamentals are catching up. We're just going sideways a lot just to really wait for that to normalize. When I look at it, I've been saying to, a lot of my subscribers to my newsletter, it's just like, it's sideways, it's consolidating, it's a little bit overheated. We've got a few weeks to wait, and that's actually what's happened. It's just a wait and see game. Like, the fundamentals is really strong over the next 3 to 6 months. Locally, it's been overheated, and we just have to wait. It takes some time, and the other thing is, everyone is very, very bullish right now, and whenever everyone's bullish, it's very difficult for the price to run upwards, because you get a whole lot of speculative long positions in the markets, and that makes it very, very profitable to take the other side and short it and prevent the price rise, and effectively take out the long positions. The majority is very seldom right. So we need to get into a position where the market's a little bit more confused about the price going up, and that actually opens the window for the price to go up. Markets are funny like that because it's game theoretic between buyers and sellers. It's kind of a sports game, right? If everyone is going one way, there's going to be some really big players out there that are going to push it the other.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar, and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much, much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.